So you've never heard of this, but it affects all artists. Welcome to Art Mentor. My name is Sean, and today I want to teach you about a little known effect that's actually 10 times worse than creative burnout. I'm going to teach you how you can get through this and stay creative, and here's how. Now let's name this energy demon, because just to describe it a little bit, you ever feel like you're just driving on an empty tank? Like it's just this overwhelming, crippling feeling of just bleh. And to put this into perspective with myself, I just recently came off of finishing off 4 commissions. I had to write a 50-page research set of papers for my dissertation program. And then I also just did a 20-hour long edit for a sponsorship video last week. And then on top of that, I had to write another 10 pages for my program. And I was just like, man, this is crazy. Like at the end of it, I just felt completely sucked dry. Like there's just no more left in me after all that was done. And do you ever just feel like all your creative wells are just empty, like they've just completely gone and dried up on themselves? Well, this is an effect that I started to notice ever since I started working with people one-on-one in my art mentorship. And I would notice that whenever people finish out a project, like a really big project or a set of projects, is that they would feel really low energy the week after. And this effect is what I have deemed artistic recoil. And it's the same exact way that when a gun fires, it cocks back. It's the same way that if you ever get punched, it kind of reverberates through your body. It's the same way that if your car ever has to stop abruptly, what's it do is it goes forwards and backwards real quick. So in the same way, in the same vein of thought, whenever you're done with a really big, taxing workload, whenever you finish a really big, hard project, whenever you've been working on something for a long time, you've been laboring over it forever, okay? And then at the end of it, do you ever just feel like it's just completely sucked everything out of you as if it was just some type of artistic vampire? Now this can get mistaken for burnout, but my friend, it's not, because realistically, what's happened here is that your creative wells have just completely been exhausted. This is completely manageable, and I'm gonna teach you how to do that in this video. The difference between this and burnout is that, first off, I just wanna put this out there, but there's actually no such thing as art burnout. The only type of burnout that you can experience is from a life burnout, okay? And I have a lot of thoughts on this. If you want to hear that, definitely tell me about it down below if you're interested in a video on that topic and art burnout and stuff, because I definitely have a lot to say that I think could help you. Because just to be honest, everything that you go through in your life is just a normal part of being human. It's nothing wrong with it. And this is a normal phenomena that I notice so many artists crumbling under after they finish a project, and then you feel resistance into the next project, and then you don't want to go ahead and do it anymore. And you find ways to kind of meander through it before you'll actually feel bad, and then you'll start a new thing. So that's what we don't want to do. And I want to help you through today, because the feeling is real, but the burnout is not. It's actually just artistic recoil. And here's how you're going to start to combat this and never have a problem with it again. Now, can I be very honest with you? When I'm done with the project, I have intense feelings of just resistance and anxiety over starting the next project. And I'm always starting a next project. I'm currently starting a next project while I'm finishing up another project. And do you ever feel this way? Like, do you ever just feel like it doesn't matter how much you're getting paid or how great the opportunity is or what you could potentially make or that great idea, but you just feel like you've just come to a complete halt on it? Well, here's a strategy that I started to implement, and I'm actually doing this more and more with people in my mentorship. And it is how you can plan for the next success. So here's the best way to do that, friend, okay? So go ahead, pull up your artwork, get it out of your studio, pull it up on your computer, however you're looking at it. And here's the best way that you can analyze it, and this is gonna invigorate you. So what we wanna do is we wanna identify 3 things on it. First off, where are your successes? Listen, even if you don't feel like hyper triumphant, you're not looking at this as like, man, this is the best staple of my life type of artwork, right? Go ahead and take a look though at where did you grow? Because I guarantee you, if you've been doing it and you've been doing it consistently, you're growing. So where was it? Maybe you did that ear a little bit better. Maybe the nose actually looks good. Oh, hey, maybe that tree in the background looks okay. Or like, hey, I kind of like my color palette up on here. Maybe my values were a little bit better than last time. There's always something to admire. And if you start to tune yourself to see that, it's going to encourage you to want to continue to go on. Now, part 2 on this is you need to look for what do you need to improve, okay? And I have a very systematic way of going through this that helps a lot of people, so listen up. one of the best things that you can do is definitely not overindulge in this, because this is generally if I was like, hey, what do you want to eat? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And then I was like, hey, what do you not want to eat? And you have like 10 places that you don't want to go. People that are married, do you ever feel this with your spouse? All right. You're like, hey, honey, where do you want to go? And they'll be like, oh, wherever you want to go, baby. And then you'll list off 10 restaurants and they'll say no. It's the same thing with this, okay? So take a look at your artwork. Take a look at, okay, where do I want to go with this one, okay? Maybe I need to do a better job at rendering the faces. Maybe I need to do a better job with anatomy. Maybe I need to do a better job with dynamic posing, okay? So from that, here's what I want to limit you on. Limit yourself to 3 things, no more than 3 things. I need to do these 3 things in order to be the best version of this artwork. If I were to redo this, this is what I would focus on. And then in your next artwork, you're gonna go ahead and pick one of those 3 things, and that's gonna be your focus. That way you're gonna see continuous growth, and you can do that in the next one too. The third part on this, real simple, is you need to ask yourself, what do you need to challenge yourself on more? Okay, so this can be in the pre-planning phases. Because I bet that while you were going through that, you thought to yourself, like, man, I should have gotten all these references. I had no idea what this thing looked like, or like that dog, woof, that thing is barking, but it needs to be put down because it looks so bad, right? Or you're looking at it from the perspective of like, man, I really can't tell what that background is. It just looks like pudding back there. Or you're looking at your character's clothing and you're just like, I don't know, man, that this person's robe is so wrinkled. It looked like it's been left on the floor for days. Identify where you want to challenge yourself more, okay? Maybe you need to create more dynamic compositions. Maybe you need to use a lot more color in it. Maybe you need to try something new. Maybe you've been avoiding a tool. Maybe you've been avoiding a procedure. Maybe you watched an awesome YouTube tutorial and you're like, man, I want to try that. But you were too scared to do it in this piece, so do it in the next one. So from that, derive about 3 things, and again, choose one of them for the next piece. Through doing this process, here's what you're going to do, is that you are going to be more focused on looking forward than looking backward. Because in this process, what I'm trying to stop you from doing is looking forward without looking backward. And it's important for you to look backward at what you have done and where your gains have come from artistically, so then therefore it propels you forward. And also what's good about this process is it allows you to breathe in what you've been doing and how that's been successful for you. How's that sound? Are you doing this already, by the way? Now, the next majorly helpful thing for you to do at this point is to go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, because I'm here for you all the time to help you be a better artist and help you achieve the art goals of your dreams. And hey, look, maybe you've been trying this for a while and you know this stuff already, but you just can't implement it. And that's where my one-on-one art mentorship comes into play. Listen, this is not a course, it's not a class, it's me and you working one-on-one to accomplish the things that you want to do at the pace you want to do it. I've helped people just like you totally supercharge their art business and be able to achieve everything that they didn't think they'd be able to do for years in a matter of months. And if that sounds like you, then go ahead and check out the link in my description, fill out the form, and I'll reach out to you soon. And what's really going to change your life too is when you start to do this. All right, artists, the first thing I want you to know is whenever you feel the effect of artistic recoil, you finished out that big thing, you closed out that client, you closed out that commission, or you've just been learning really hard. First thing that I want to let you know is that how you're feeling is totally real. I want to validate you. It's not abnormal. It's not weird. It is not disordered. Like, that is a very default mode on humans, is when you are done doing something really intense, is that naturally you're gonna feel a little drained. That is just a normal symptom of just duress upon our human conditions. There's nothing wrong with that. However, though, one thing that I definitely want to urge you just to consider, my friend, to totally shape everything that you do, is to just follow me on this. The way that you're going to handle that and the way that you're going to interpret that is going to determine how much you bring into the next project and how much your artistic future is dependent upon how you handle the next 3 days. Because honestly, whenever you're done with a really big project, whenever you're done learning something, whenever you're done applying yourself more than what you normally would or could in any particular given circumstance, generally what happens is that excavates a lot of deep feelings down here. And things surface and things arise. What I want to urge you to consider, friend, is to not run away from that feeling. Because if you run away from what you're currently doing, you're also running away from your potential. So what I'd like to encourage you to do is this instead. I want you to question it. Why do I feel this way? How did that come up? What made me think about this? Because over the next 3 days, I guarantee you're gonna do one of two things. You're either gonna find ways to just completely avoid art altogether, or you're gonna get back on the horse and you're gonna be able to keep creating as you were doing before. Give yourself a period for which it's okay for you to sit there and ponder on it, but not sit there and feel bad about yourself for it, not feel bad enough to want to produce more negativity, to want to produce more negative self-talk, to be overly critical of yourself, because my friend, there is absolutely no point in you expending all of that beautiful mental energy of yours on feeling bad about yourself for it. But that is just the shockwave of artistic recoil talking. Do you ever do this? Do you ever feel like this prevents you from doing what you want to do? Here's another thing for you to consider. Now, how would you like to turbocharge your revitalization? Because literally when you hit this wall called artistic recoil, what you're gonna feel is just like there's nothing there and you've lost inspiration. And even if you had a great idea, maybe you just lost it. Like the train just took off and you're there standing on the station, like watching it just fade off into the distance, right? So here's a tactic that I started to do. And I did this a couple years ago, and man, it was such a big transformation to how I continued to move forward with it and how it inspired me to want to make even better art, okay? So one of the things that I did is I used the template that's in my description and I made some influence maps. And if you remember these, they were really big in like the early 2000s and 2010s. And basically what I did was I made a separate inspiration sheet for every single artist or art style or company that I loved. And I put that up. Now here's a really key clutch thing. You want to surround yourself with inspiration. You want to surround yourself with artists and artwork, or maybe a company that you want to work for, or a project that you want to be a part of, and put that up there. And you got to do it in a physical way, okay? It's not good enough for it to just be your phone background. It's not good enough for it just lie and die somewhere in the recesses of your hard drive, okay, friend? What you got to do is you got to put that up there. And it's especially most practical when you can put that up in a space that you are actually working in. So like for me, I have this directly across the wall from my drawing tablet. As I'm drawing, I'm looking up and boom, there's all my inspirations, okay? And this is so helpful for me because literally if I get stuck or if I'm like, man, what's up with the lighting on this? Or like, I can't balance this correctly. I'll literally get up and I'll go look over at those. And that gives me so much guidance, okay? What most people are doing though, is they're doing this in a really toxic way. Because what are you doing instead? You're gonna say, oh, I'm looking for inspiration on Instagram or something. And what you're doing there is you're actually not looking for inspiration, you're just looking for comparison. And I don't know about you, but like I follow hundreds, probably like 1,000 or so artists. And every single one of them, different style, different medium, different subject matter. And that leads to a lot of creative confusion and you just feel bad about yourself. So instead, have some targeted inspirations, print it out, get it physically out there, and just surround yourself with it, okay? This will be game changing and it'll also lead you as a North Star towards your success. Try it out. All right, so here's a hot take on a topic that most people would never even touch with a 20-foot pole. So let me just guess here. You're probably so stress avoidant that any version of stress, you're probably avoidant of that too. Because honestly, like the term stress is seemingly such a pejorative nowadays, isn't it? Like you just can't touch it, it's negative, it's all bad. But is it really? Because here's an effect that you've probably never heard of, and it's actually a really positive thing. So did you know there's actually a positive version of stress? It's called eustress. And I want to introduce this concept to you. Eustress is what you feel when you have exited something that is very difficult. And you can think about this as if you were to complete a marathon, as if you were to set a new PR for lifting, as if you were to get an A on your final exam, as if you were to go ahead and land a big client, as if you were to just finish out a big project. How's that sound for you? But going through that, naturally, you do feel the effects of stress. But eustress is actually a positive interpretation of how that went and how you felt at the end of it. And I've never heard a lot of people talk about this before, but it is so critical to your success and your sustainability as an artist, because through eustress, at the end of that, you feel triumph. You feel great. You feel victorious, don't you? When you're done with that big project, when you can look back at that thing and be like, oh man, I did it. You did that. You made that. You conquered that task, right? And have you ever thought about, like, why do people do ridiculously grueling challenges? Why do they put themselves through that? Like, have you ever heard of like ultramarathon runners, like these people that run like hundreds of miles over the course of 2 or 3 days and without stopping? Like, that's crazy. But why do they do that? It's because of the effect of eustress. And my friend, I'm gonna give you some advice too. Like, maybe you've never felt that triumph before, but that might just be because of how you're interpreting that event or how you're interpreting your success. And how about this? What if you're just avoiding looking for your minor successes? So my friend, what if you started to see that stress that you're feeling as actually the presence of eustress in your life, the feeling of feeling good? Because without that, you would actually never feel satisfied, never feel motivated to make anything else again. But if you embrace this stress and not see it as a big bad boogeyman in your artistic life, then you can definitely continue on with it, and it's gonna fuel you rather than drain you. How's that sound? Now, I got a big bomb drop on you, and it's that there's a leech in your creative life, and it's sucking all the energy, all out of your art flow and your creativity and your energy. And it's taken all of that steam away from your engines, and it's preventing you from being the best version of yourself and bring the best energy into the next piece. And to show you what this is, let me ask this question. Why don't you go ahead and look around your space right now? How does it feel? Like, literally, the space in which you are creating art. How do you feel being in that space, in occupying that area of whatever studio or your home or your office, whatever it is, okay? How do you feel sitting there? Do you feel like it is a prison? Do you feel like it's suboptimal? Do you feel like some level of dread in sitting down? A lot of times what we don't think about is the energy in our spaces, okay? And we don't think about how we design a space for it to encourage us or discourage us in order to be there. And as an artist friend, you either thrive on that energy or you do not, and you die on that energy. So have you ever thought about this? What if you designed your space to be a space that you want to go to, you're compelled to be in, that you don't mind working in, so that if you do put in some long time, you do put in some long hours, you don't sit there and you just feel, ugh. What if instead you felt, ah? So I can definitely relate to this one because I actually just recently overhauled my office space. And since doing that, I gotta tell you, man, it has been a big game changer for me. Like, I literally walk into my office now and I'm like, ah. And listen, I'm not on any Mark Brunet level here with like $50,000 worth of stuff, okay? But literally just cleaning it up, just getting a couple things here and there. Like every month, I've just been like getting a little thing here and a little thing there, and just decluttering, organizing. That makes such a massive difference. And this has transformed it from me walking in and being like, oh, okay, let's draw today, into like, oh man, I get to draw. This is an amazing opportunity. I love this space. Like, I've literally caught myself just looking around and smiling multiple times. And I've actually recommended this to people that I work with too. I had one of my mentees recently who actually took this to a really easy, great level. And all they did was that they cleaned up their space and they got some little organization stuff, and then they painted the room. And they told me like they were so inspired the next time that they sat down. So let me ask you, how can you do this? Can you clean up your crap? Can you pick up your trash? Can you go ahead and maybe wash down your desk once in a while? Can you get rid of the old nasty paint cups and maybe replace it, or at least go wash it out? Can you go ahead and just figure out how you can create a more comfortable space? Y'all, I can remember just through all the times and all the different types of tablets I've had in being a digital artist, how many times I have just suffered through something that was really uncomfortable to sit at, or just some posture that sucked. And we do that, and it's just expected to be there. But it doesn't have to be that way. So I'm gonna encourage you this. Think about this. How can you enable yourself to do better work? How can you enable yourself to love that too? Because if you can conquer that hill, then you won't mind doing the work, and you feel encouraged to do it, and you're gonna feel way more inspired the next time that you get to do that. How's that sound? Or have you recently done this? If so, tell me about it, because I'd love to hear about it. All right, now let me tell you why at this point, in order to get that nice feeling of eustress, what you need is a fill up, okay? And just like when your tank runs empty on your car, what do? You gotta go to the gas station and fill it up. So how do you do this as a human being, okay? And maybe how should you not? when you're done with the project, you hit this 3-day stride where, like I said earlier, what are you gonna do? This is when you're either going to propel yourself forward to want to work on your next piece, or you're gonna go ahead and find a lot of reasons why you shouldn't anymore. And this is when I'm gonna encourage you to do human things. Now, I know that might sound a little weird coming from me if you've ever watched my content, but listen, I'm not a grindaholic. I like life. I want you to enjoy life too. And I'm gonna give you some strategies for how to do this and do this very efficiently through this. So what am I recommending? Go outside, go for a walk, do some exercise, maybe take a class, go and be social, okay? Spend some time with your loved ones, read a great book, watch a great movie. Maybe you just got a game, you can play that for a little bit, okay? Because what happens around artistic recoil is that you generally might consider yourself unable to continue on, unable to persist, unable to create the next thing. And then you're gonna say to yourself this magical phrase, well, this just doesn't work for me. And that's usually why artists dump out. They're gonna be like, well, this whole thing, it just doesn't work for me, Sean. I can't keep up with this. And to an extent on that, it's just because you're not working for it. And you're not working in such a way that you can sustain it. You've got 72 hours. Do something great in that time. But here's the thing with that. You have to put a strong cap. You must put a limit on that. You must make sure that you put some type of time limit, because if you don't, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen, because I've personally experienced it and I've watched many a person experience it too. When I'm working with people one-on-one in my mentorship, or when I'm just working with people in my average teaching job, I noticed that people will just find ways to just embed themselves into numbing activities, embed themselves into just copious amounts of games, or copious amounts of watching Netflix, or copious amounts of doom scrolling. And that's not gonna help you. That's not even a human thing that's gonna refill you. Now let me tell you why you deserve a Scooby Stack and why you're better at training a dog than training yourself. So if you've ever tried to train an animal, one of the best systems that's been recognized in recent years is that you should actually positively reward positive behavior and therefore encourage it. How does this relate to your artwork? Well, when you're enveloped in artistic recoil and you're just feeling completely empty and you're feeling dejected and you're feeling completely unmotivated, is that this is typically when you're gonna invite a lot of negative self-talk. Your inner critic's gonna come out. So let me ask, how much time are you slamming yourself? How much time are you looking down at your artwork like, man, that sucks. I'm never gonna do that better. What's up with that? How come this person's so much better than me? How did they do it? How did they develop so much more? Man, I've got so much more ground that I have to cover, and I don't know how I'm gonna do it before I die. Here's the problem, is that you're training your brain to associate negativity with art making. You're actually training yourself out of liking the process. You're training yourself out of not being able to enjoy it because you're not looking for what's good, you're looking for what sucks. And one major thing about our brain is that it is literally wired for negativity as a survival mechanism. So instead, friend, when you're experiencing the effects of artistic recoil, start to look for, what are you proud of in that piece? What do you like? Again, revisit how you can take a look at your plus, minus, and delta on that. And then to exemplify a better way of thinking about this, let me offer you what Bruce Lee has to say, who says that you need to mind your words, for the body cannot tell the difference, and you will start to physically feel the effects of what you tell yourself. So in this, here's just a basic philosophy, okay? Is that your words become your story, and your story becomes your truth, the truth that you accept, and your truth becomes a self-fulfilling philosophy. And that philosophy transforms itself into a paradigm for your life, and that will allow you to either have success or have a whole lot of excuses. It's your choice. Artists, I gotta ask you this. Why do you act like you're in prison? Why do you feel like you're an inmate? Like you are just a prisoner of your feelings? And when you're talking about what you have to do, what you have to work on, the time you have to put in, the obligation that you have, I just wanna ask you this. How does that feel to say? Have you ever really thought about the power behind that, of having to say to yourself like, oh, I have to work on this today, or I have to do that, or I have to make that look better, or I have to be a professional, or I have to get into this industry, or I have to get paid, or else I'm not gonna be able to feed my family today, or I have to make sure that I look into how to do this better, and I have to do this or else. Admit it. You feel terrible about that, right? You just feel like you're caged in and there's just no exit for it, don't you? And this is where you got to be really mindful of the power of your words here, because when you're talking about what you have to do, you're coming from a place of resistance. You're coming from the place of almost like when a parent would ask a child to do something and then inevitably they buck back, they don't want to do that, okay? In the same vein of thought, that's exactly what you're doing too by feeling that you are forcing yourself to do it. So how do you transform this completely? Here's what it is that I want you to view it as an opportunity over that obligation from it. And it's really important that you see art as something that is a blessing and a privilege and an opportunity to be able to do. I want you to understand this really well. All the AI bros out there, they wish that they could do what you could. They wish that they had the dedication. They wish that they had the discipline to learn this craft. That's why, literally, like just to kind of quote Invincible here, but like look what they had to make just to emulate a fraction of what we could do here. And I want you, friend, give yourself some credit. Stop viewing art as something that is a chore, a labor, a task, because what do you think about when you think of a chore or an errand? You hate it. There's no joy in that. There's no passion behind that. So following that logic, you really need to think about how you're wording that and how you're feeling on that. So instead you can transform into like, I get to. Psych yourself up for it. Y'all, you probably don't know this, but like literally I psych myself up before I go ahead and I start every single video. Like there's literally always 5 seconds of me before I record every single one of these. And I just go, let's help some artists today. Or if I'm feeling really spunky, I'll be like, let's change some artists' lives. And I get myself pumped up so that I feel excited about doing this and making this content for you. And I hope you're enjoying it, by the way, too. But on this topic, what if you could tune yourself out of anxiety and crank up the excitement? Wouldn't that be great? Now, a big tip for you is how you should follow the example of great sailors to sail yourself into your artistic destiny. And when you think about the sailors of old, what did they do in order to get around? They were guided by the stars. And there's one particular one, the North Star, that they would follow. But most artists, just to be honest with you, they're flopping around on the deck instead of sitting at the helm of their artistic destiny. And the biggest flaw that I see a lot of artists do is that they're not really defined on what they want to do, where they want to go, what skills do they want to build, and what should they be working on. And from this, just have to admit to yourself that maybe you need to hold yourself a little bit more accountable. Maybe you need to make sure that what you want to do is actually out there. Because just to be honest, you can't hit a target that you can't see and you've not defined. What I want you to think about is how you can think about your goals and having them be readily available and totally obvious and very defined so that they become your North Star of success. But just to be honest with you again, most artists have terrible art goals. If your art goal is like, I just want to be a better artist, I want to help people, like those are terrible goals. And just to show you why this doesn't work and how you can do this way better, I made an entire video for you right here. So go ahead and go check it out and get yourself some great art goals that are going to power you through the rest of your life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, share it with somebody else.